right, in focus. Let me do the drama stuff first, because pretty much nobody watches the comic reviews. Okay, the swatting of Peter Simeti. Let's look at the background environment. Swattings do occur, and Peter is in an industry, hope he doesn't mind me calling him by his first name, with a high likelihood of mentally ill people who would try to get somebody killed over comic books. If you aren't on Twitter, then you have no idea what level of sociopathy is out there. EVS got 3 death threats that I remember. I guess I won't make a joke about that. And several people who are anti-Comicsgate have violent fantasies about hurting people they disagree with. Michelle Perez, Mags, and a few others. The people who follow Renfamous, Mags Visagios are among the worst in anti-Comicsgate. They hate Comicsgate because it goes against their fantasy world where they control mainstream comics. Because politics is downstream from culture. They are desperate to control the ways to disseminate information. Social media, websites, comics, especially the chat room or the message boards, they especially want to subvert and corrupt things that are vaguely nationalistic. G.I. Joe, Captain America. Because, as your boy pointed out, those are key nodes and infrastructure with high-value targets. And it's funny that they will spend their time for free to control boards just for the power of being able to ban people and delete comments. They're not getting paid for it. It's just this pure dopamine rush of being that petty. So the kids who are anti-Comicsgate are very motivated. You're either with them or you're the enemy. They think Comicsgate is full of literal socialists in Hugo Boss suits. So when Peter Simeti starts, that's Mr. Simeti to you, starts talking to Comicsgate, he has become the enemy. And trying to murder him is very much on the table because, as I said, they're crazy people. You're going to have to go on Twitter for a few months to really find out. The Twitter kids are insane, and many of the adults, actually. Take a look at Patch Zurcher, Mark Wade, Gail Simone. Actually, Gail Simone was funny one time in her life. She had a meltdown on Twitter a few months ago where she roasted Bernie Bros and other soy boys, but I'm pretty sure it was the one time in her life that she was ever funny. Though she has potential, she could be funny if she just put the ideology down for just a little while. Just enough to write something that just doesn't suck sweaty donkey balls. So yes, Peter Simeti probably did get swatted, and so did Edwin Boyette, and Tug got his mailbox destroyed. But with Tug, it was probably just some drunk kids. If you live on a lonely country road, you may as well just have your mailbox on a string. And as for the guys who are stirring up trouble with the, articles and the other videos, they're just playing the YouTube game. If you're selling a product and you're using YouTube to help you, that you've got to have subs to do that. That's why you should never, ever tell people to unsub or get in a fight with them in the comments. Just, thanks for your input, or I'll think about that. Never, ever tell people to unsub. That's insane. I guess people do that when they just lose their temper and some people just don't internet well. Anyway, click the links to support the channel. Thank you to those who have supported the channel. I don't deserve any of it, but thank you for that. You've been very, very generous. Or if you want to send me something to edit your comic book and make a video out about it, or in private, no problem. Or if you want to send me a hard copy of something, hit up my P.O. box. Aquaman. Bad guys are never diverse. So Aquaman teams up with some terrorists to take on Chinese or Indian polluters who account for the majority of the pollution, except they can't do that because they have the wrong skin color. So they make the Russians the bad guys because that's how ridiculous these people are. If you don't read comics frequently, this type of thing is just going to slip past your radar. You will think that this is a pretty standard story, except that you may wonder why in 2020 mainstream comics there is a suspicious lack of diversity. Why so many blondes and redheads? Doesn't that seem to strike a wrong note? All the other comics have plenty of diversity. Why not this one? And when you've been reading as many comics as I have, and I know a lot of other people read this many comics, I know that they know what I know and they're just not saying it. because YouTube is more important to them to sell whatever they're selling. So I get that. It's like a part-time job for them. I know you know. I know you people know what's going on. And they just don't want to quite. Anyway, if you read this many comics, you should notice things. And when you see 90% of comics are super, super diverse, and you start noticing, well, yeah, only the good guys are diverse. The bad guys always all look alike. And then if you notice a suspicious lack of diversity, well, they're telling you something. So you got to pay a little extra close attention. 2 points. It's Russia, so there are Asiatic people in Russia. Some look more Asian than others, but not in this comic. These guys all look very European. And there's a reason for that, because they're evil. In mainstream comics, the only devils are white ones. If this had any appearance of truth, the bad guys would be Chinese or Indian, because they're the ones who are doing the vast majority of polluting. But DC is as soy as Marvel, but they're, say, 2 years behind Marvel in terms of wokeness. But it's the same people who run Marvel, DC, Dark Knight. They're just godless commie, excuse my language, but they're cocksuckers. They're just on different points of the, I'll say, mentally disabled on the spectrum pathways of wokeness. So now the Russians are portrayed as Europeans. Now, what about the freedom fighters / terrorists? The reason they're blonde is because even though they're portrayed as the good guys, they're still bloodthirsty terrorists who are machine gunning Russians. It's a morally ambiguous position. They are using violence to achieve their goals, and it's not like, I guess I'm kind of on their side. It's not like they tried to arrest the Russians first. They went in guns blazing. And the thing is, you could make them morally clear characters if you wanted to. But then it puts them in a tough spot because they can't use white characters in a positive, to make them look positive. They have to use POC characters, and it's difficult when they're terrorists / freedom fighters. But, the oceans belong to all of us. So when you've got like China polluting, it's like, oh, we should just not mind our own business. Yeah, except they're polluting everyone's ocean. They're adding to the carbon footprint of, we only have one planet, is what I'm saying. So they make them look like something out of Austrian Central Casting. Blondes with cheekbones, submachine guns, and they're bloodthirsty. It's like the characters are lifted right out of a World War II comic. That's what they want you to think. Because for some reason, they are hung up on something from 80 years ago. Just get over it. Walk it off. I am so tired of reading about evil neo-socialists with blonde or red hair. There is a whole world of potential antagonists out there. If you ever hear about Boko Haram or Somali pirates or the entirety of the Middle East, politics aside, from a storytelling standpoint, it is boring as hell to have the exact same protagonist in every Marvel mainstream comic. There is no surprise. When I see a brown character, it's going to be a Mary Sue purse puppy, and it is offensive to everybody involved. The soft bigotry of lowered expectations is very real. And when I see a lighter character, I know it's the bad guy almost every single time, maybe 95% of the time. Oh, hey, look, it's Miss Marvel, a stone-free Muslim girl. And what's this? A blonde kid. It's at his computer. What are the odds the blonde will be radicalized into a far-right hate group? Well, in Marvel, the odds are 100%. Yes, you heard me right. The Muslim girl needs to arrest the blonde boy because blondes are committing violence and Muslims need to stop them. Even saying such an insane plot out loud makes me realize we live under the big top with jokers in charge. I can't say the C word that means Joker on YouTube. Reading SJW comics is slowly turning me insane. Even when comic book stores are closed, they deliver this cancer digitally. One would think that they would have learned a lesson from the shutdown. Nope, absolutely not. They don't want to change. But even if they wanted to, they couldn't. There are too many people around them who would put pressure on them to get back on the plantation. I can't even imagine what would happen if the writer came up with the idea of having the Chinese be the bad guys. Somebody would say, you know what? Why don't we make them Russian? Yeah, something, Trump and Putin. Nobody would actually come out and say, you know, if the bad guys are Chinese or the terrorists are Indians, we're going to catch flack on Twitter. They never have to actually come out and say it. Everyone in comics knows which way the wind is blowing. They might get away with it every so often, but they're too scared. They're trapped in a positive feedback loop. They have over the decades been getting more woke, and their audience has been shrinking, but simultaneously applying more pressure via social media. Actually, you might have been able to save comics at one time if it wasn't for social media. But with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's a done deal. There's no way to walk it back. And truth be told, they aren't that concerned about money. They either have other income streams or are doing this for ideology and Twitter dopamine. In brief, comics sucks. But you probably already knew that. And it sucks for the slightly deeper reason I mentioned about, you know, the racial stuff going on, which is it just makes me feel dirty reading this and knowing that these people are writing propaganda. But it also sucks because of that racial stuff going on, there's a lack of verisimilitude. It just doesn't feel accurate. It feels like, gee, you really bent over backwards to make the Russians the bad guys. You got a red-haired good guy, a blonde-haired good guy, and another blonde-haired good guy. Are they supposed to look like Germans? Is that what you're saying? The German with the submachine gun? The Mauser or something? Is that blonde, blue eye? Everything they do, they do for a reason. So, that was cool. That was a cool image. They used that in another Aquaman like 6 months ago of the big mother shark. But it was a reversed. It was a big mother shark zooming up. I don't know. It was a video months ago. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. If you want to send me an email, Bianca Zombie at biancazombie602@gmail.com, or click the links to enter the Discord. Though there's pretty much nobody on it, but some people use it to send me private messages. Okay, guys, I'll see you all next episode.